My wife asked for the divorce and said calmly, "I want the house, the money, everything, just not the child." I didn't argue, didn't negotiate. I signed immediately. The judge raised an eyebrow. Her lawyer didn't until one page was read out loud. I'm a 37-year-old guy who thought he had a decent marriage for 8 years. We met in our late 20s, got married after 2 years of dating, had our son when I was 32. For a while, everything seemed normal. We both worked, split household duties reasonably well, raised our kid together. I'm in software development, she worked in marketing. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. The problem started around year 6. She became distant, started working late more often, spent more time on her phone. Classic signs, but I convinced myself I was being paranoid. We had a 5-year-old son who needed stability, and I didn't want to create problems where there might not be any. I was wrong. Last year, I found out she'd been having an affair with her boss for almost 18 months. I didn't find out through some dramatic confrontation or detective work. She told me, just came home one evening after putting our son to bed and said, "We need to talk." I remember sitting on our couch, the same couch where we'd watched countless movies, where our son had taken his first steps, and she told me she'd fallen in love with someone else. She didn't apologize, didn't cry, just stated it like a fact. She wanted a divorce. I asked if she wanted to try counseling. She said no. I asked if she was sure. She said yes. I asked about her son. She paused then, and something in her expression changed. Something cold. "I've been thinking about that," she said. "I'm not sure I'm cut out for motherhood anymore." I didn't understand what she meant at first. "You're a great father," she continued. "Better than I am as a mother. I think he'd be better off with you full time. You want to give up custody? I want to be honest about what I can handle. I don't want to be a weekend mom. I don't want the responsibility anymore. I want to start over." I sat there trying to process what I was hearing. My wife, the woman who'd given birth to our child, was telling me she wanted out of being a mother entirely. What about visitation? We can figure something out. But I don't want primary custody. I don't want him most of the time. I want to move on with my life. That conversation happened 4 months ago. She moved out 2 weeks later, into her boyfriend's place. I filed for divorce the next day. The proceedings were strange from the start. Her lawyer sent over initial terms. She wanted the house, which we'd bought together and had significant equity in. She wanted half my retirement accounts. She wanted the newer car. She wanted alimony, even though we made similar salaries. And she wanted me to have full custody of our son, with her paying minimal child support and having visitation at her discretion. My lawyer looked at the document and said, "This is unusual. Most parents fight for custody. She's basically signing away her parental rights for minimal financial obligation. That's what she wants. Are you okay with this?" I thought about my son, about how he'd asked me 3 times last week when mommy was coming home, about how I'd had to explain that mommy had a new place, but we'd see her soon, about the confusion in his eyes. "Yeah," I said, "I'm okay with it." But I wasn't just okay with it. I had a plan. See, what my wife didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything for the past 6 months. Every late night, she'd come home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. Every lie about working late that I'd verified she wasn't at the office. Every text message I'd recovered from our phone bill showing contact with her boss. Every time she'd chosen to go out instead of attending our son's school events. I'd also been smart about our finances. The house was purchased primarily with money from an inheritance I'd received from my grandfather. My lawyer had found documentation proving that while both our names were on the deed, I'd put down 85% of the down payment from my separate inheritance funds. In our state, that mattered. The retirement accounts she wanted to split, I'd been contributing to mine since before we were married. A significant portion was mine alone, not marital property. The car she wanted, titled in my name, purchased with my trade-in before we married. But I didn't fight any of her demands immediately. I told my lawyer to let her think she was getting everything she wanted. Let her get comfortable. Let her think I was so desperate to keep my son that I'd hand over everything else without a fight. We went back and forth for 3 months. Her demands got more specific. She wanted certain furniture, certain artwork. She even tried to claim ownership of a watch my father had given me for my 30th birthday. And through it all, I agreed. My lawyer kept sending me messages asking if I was sure. I was sure. The divorce hearing was scheduled for last month. The week before, my lawyer filed an amended response. That's when things got interesting. Update 1. The amended response laid out everything. Documentation of her affair, which in our state affected alimony calculations. Proof that the house down payment came from my separate property. Evidence that she'd been neglecting our son, choosing her affair over parenting responsibilities. Records showing she'd missed 12 parent-teacher conferences in 18 months, had forgotten to pick him up from school 3 times, had skipped his birthday party to go on a weekend trip with her boyfriend. We also included a detailed custody agreement. I would have full physical and legal custody. She would have supervised visitation once a month if she wanted it. She would pay child support based on her actual income. And she would have zero claim to any decision-making regarding our son's education, health, or welfare. Her lawyer called mine the same day. I wasn't on the call, but my lawyer told me it was heated. They wanted to negotiate. My lawyer said there was nothing to negotiate. We'd agreed to her terms, she'd agreed to mine. Now we were just putting it in writing. Her lawyer apparently said, "Your client is committing financial suicide. He's giving her everything." My lawyer responded, "He's giving her everything she asked for except what she didn't want anyway. If your client has a problem with getting exactly what she demanded, she's welcome to file a countermotion." They didn't file a countermotion. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. I showed up in a suit, clean-shaven, with a folder full of documents. My wife showed up in business casual, her boyfriend waiting in the hallway. The judge reviewed the case file. He was an older man, probably in his 60s, with gray hair and glasses that sat low on his nose. He looked up at my wife. "Mrs., I want to make sure I understand this correctly. You're requesting full possession of the marital home, 50% of retirement assets, the 2022 vehicle, and alimony. In exchange, you're willing to cede full custody of your 5-year-old son to your husband, with visitation at your discretion. Is that accurate?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And you understand that visitation at your discretion means you have no guaranteed parenting time, and your ex-husband could potentially limit your access to your child?" "I understand. May I ask why you're choosing to give up custody?" My wife's lawyer jumped in. "Your Honor, my client feels that the child's father is better equipped to provide primary care, and she wants what's best for her son." The judge looked skeptical but nodded. "Very well. And Mr., you're agreeing to these terms?" "Yes, Your Honor. You're giving up the house, your retirement assets, the vehicle, and you'll be paying, wait." He flipped through the papers again. "The financial disclosures show that the house down payment was funded primarily by your separate property, that the retirement accounts include significant premarital contributions, that the vehicle was purchased before the marriage. Yet you're agreeing to transfer all of these assets." "I'm agreeing to what my wife asked for, Your Honor." He raised an eyebrow. That's when I saw it. The moment he understood there was more to this story. He started reading more carefully. My wife's lawyer was shuffling papers, looking confident. That confidence lasted about 30 more seconds. "It says here," the judge continued, "that in exchange for these assets, Mr. receives full physical and legal custody, with the mother having supervised visitation once monthly at the father's discretion. It also states that Mrs. will pay child support in the amount of, this is 20% of her gross income. That's higher than standard guidelines." "Your Honor," my lawyer stood up, "if I may explain. The child support calculation is based on my client having 100% custody time. Additionally, Mrs. has agreed to cover all medical expenses, education costs, and extracurricular activities. She's also waiving any future claims to modification of custody or support." The judge looked at my wife. "Is this what you agreed to?" Her lawyer leaned over and whispered something to her. Her face went pale. "Your Honor," her lawyer said, "may we have a moment to review the documents? You've had 3 months to review the documents. Are these the terms your client agreed to or not?" More whispering. I could see my wife's hands shaking. Her lawyer's confident expression had evaporated. "Your Honor," the lawyer said slowly, "I'd like to request a continuance to review the custody and support calculations." "On what grounds?" "These are the exact terms your client proposed. The only additions are the specific calculations of the support obligations your client agreed to. Did you not advise your client on what child support obligations look like with zero custody?" There may have been a miscommunication about the specifics." The judge removed his glasses. "Counselor, did you advise your client that giving up all custody rights would mean she'd be obligated to pay support as a non-custodial parent?" "We discussed it generally, but..." Did you advise her that agreeing to cover all medical, educational, and extracurricular expenses would be in addition to base child support? The language was somewhat ambiguous. The language is very clear. It says in addition to monthly child support payments. There's nothing ambiguous about that. I watched my wife's face. She was reading through the documents now, really reading them for the first time. I could see the exact moment she understood what she'd agreed to. She'd thought she was getting the house, the money, the car, and freedom from responsibility. What she was actually getting was a monthly child support obligation of nearly $2,000, plus all medical expenses, plus half of any educational costs, plus extracurricular activities, with no parenting time to offset any of it. And the house, the car, the retirement accounts, all separate property that she would never have gotten in a contested divorce anyway. Your Honor, my wife spoke for the first time. I don't think I understood what I was agreeing to. Did you read the documents your attorney provided? I skimmed them. Did you ask your attorney to explain anything you didn't understand? I thought I understood. What exactly did you think you were agreeing to? I thought I was getting the house and the car and the money, and he was getting our son, and I'd just send some child support sometimes. The judge looked at her for a long moment. Mrs. Child support isn't optional. It's not sometimes. It's a legal obligation. And when you give up all custody and visitation rights, you're classified as a non-custodial parent with zero parenting time. That means you pay the maximum support obligation. Did your attorney explain this to you? Her lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. We discussed various scenarios, Your Honor. I'm going to ask you directly, counselor. Did you explain to your client that she would be paying approximately $2,000 per month in child support, plus all additional expenses, with no guaranteed visitation? The discussion was complex. That's not an answer. We may not have gone through every specific detail of the financial obligations. The judge shook his head. I'm inclined to accept these terms as written, since both parties signed the agreement and had legal representation. However, I'm going to give Mrs. one opportunity to withdraw her petition and reconsider. Do you want to proceed with this divorce under these terms, or do you want to request a continuance to renegotiate? Update 2. My wife looked at her lawyer. Her lawyer looked at his papers. Nobody spoke for what felt like forever. Finally, my wife said, "Can I renegotiate just the custody part?" "You can try," the judge said. "But that would require Mr. S' agreement, and it would likely mean renegotiating the entire settlement. Do you wish to do that?" She looked at me for the first time since the hearing started. I kept my expression neutral. "I don't want custody," she said. I don't want to pay that much in child support." The judge's expression hardened. "Mrs., you're asking this court to reduce your financial obligation to your child while maintaining that you don't want to actually parent your child. Is that correct?" "I just think it's too much money. Based on your income, it's the standard calculation for a non-custodial parent with zero parenting time. If you want to reduce your support obligation, you need to increase your parenting time. Are you willing to do that?" She hesitated. I could see her doing the math in her head. More time with our son meant less time with her boyfriend. Less freedom. More responsibility. "No," she finally said. "Then your support obligation stands. Does your client wish to proceed with the divorce as written, counselor?" Her lawyer leaned in again. More whispering. I caught fragments. "Contest it later. Modification hearing. Judge won't look favorably." Finally, her lawyer straightened up. "Your Honor, my client would like to request a 30-day continuance to review all terms and potentially renegotiate the settlement." The judge looked at me. "Mr." My lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client has been waiting 4 months for this divorce to finalize. His wife has had ample time to review these documents. She's had legal representation throughout. She agreed to these terms in writing. We oppose any continuance." "Your Honor," my wife's lawyer said, "my client clearly didn't understand the full implications of what she was signing. Because she didn't read it or because you didn't explain it?" "Your Honor, that's not fair. Counselor, you represent your client. It's your job to ensure she understands what she's signing. If you fail to do that, that's a matter between you and your client, not grounds for a continuance." The judge reviewed the papers one more time. "I'm going to deny the continuance. However, I'm going to ask Mr. directly. These terms are quite generous to your wife in terms of property division. Are you certain you want to proceed with this agreement?" I stood up. "Yes, Your Honor. I want my son to have a stable home with me." The house and the car and the money, they're just things. My son needs his father. If giving up material possessions means I get full custody and my son gets the stability he needs, then that's what I want. It was a good speech. I'd practiced it. The judge nodded approvingly. What I didn't say was that the house had a mortgage that was underwater thanks to some recent market fluctuations in our area. That the car had 90,000 miles and was starting to have mechanical issues. That the retirement accounts I was giving up were primarily the portions that were marital property anyway, and I'd be keeping all my premarital contributions and my inheritance. I was giving up things that looked valuable on paper but would actually be burdens. In exchange, I was getting full custody of my son and ensuring his mother paid her fair share of his expenses. The judge signed the order. This divorce is granted. All terms are as stated in the settlement agreement. Mrs., you have full ownership of the marital home, subject to the existing mortgage. You have possession of the 2022 vehicle. The retirement accounts will be divided per the Qley. Mr. has full physical and legal custody of the minor child. Mrs., you have visitation at the discretion of Mr., not to exceed once monthly supervised visitation unless both parties agree otherwise. Child support is set at $1,987 per month, with additional obligations for medical, dental, and vision insurance, 50% of unreimbursed medical expenses, and 50% of educational and extracurricular costs. These orders are effective immediately. He banged his gavel. It was done. My wife just sat there, staring at the papers. Her lawyer was packing up quickly, avoiding eye contact with her. My lawyer shook my hand. As we walked out, I heard my wife behind me. Wait, this isn't what I wanted. I didn't turn around. In the hallway, her boyfriend was waiting. He smiled when he saw her, then frowned when he saw her expression. I walked past them to the elevator. My lawyer and I rode down in silence. When we got to the parking garage, he finally spoke. That was brutal. She got what she asked for. You know what I mean. You set her up. I gave her exactly what she wanted. She wanted the house. She got it. She wanted to not be responsible for our son. She got that too. She just didn't want to pay for that freedom. The judge knew what you were doing. Probably. He let it happen anyway. Because she agreed to it. Because her lawyer should have protected her. Because she was so focused on getting assets that she didn't think about the liabilities. We shook hands and I drove home. My son was with my parents for the day. I'd pick him up that evening, and we'd have pizza and watch a movie, and I wouldn't tell him anything about what had happened in court. He was 5. He didn't need to know that his mother had legally signed away her responsibility for him. But someday he'd ask questions, and I'd have all the documents to show him exactly what happened. Update 3. The first child support payment was due 30 days after the divorce finalized. It didn't come. I waited a week, then had my lawyer send a notice. The response came from a different law firm. My ex-wife had fired her divorce attorney and hired someone new. They wanted to negotiate a modification of support. My lawyer called me. She's claiming financial hardship. Says she can't afford the support payments and wants them reduced. On what grounds? She's saying her income has decreased because she had to take a lower-paying job to reduce stress. She quit her job? Apparently. She's now working part-time as a consultant, making about 40% of what she was making before. I laughed. Actual out loud. So she quit her full-time job to voluntarily reduce her income, and now she wants to pay less child support? That's what they're arguing. What does the law say? Voluntary reduction of income isn't grounds for support modification. The court will impute her income based on her earning capacity, not her actual earnings. So she torpedoed her own career, and she'll still owe the same amount? Essentially, yes. But they're going to fight it. Expect a modification hearing. The hearing was scheduled for 3 months out. In the meantime, my ex-wife's support payments were irregular. Some months she paid half. Some months nothing. The arrears added up quickly. During this time, she requested visitation exactly once. I agreed. She showed up 2 hours late to a scheduled supervised visit at a neutral location, stayed for 45 minutes, spent most of that time on her phone, and left early because she had plans. My son asked me on the drive home why mommy didn't want to play with him. I didn't have a good answer. The modification hearing was a disaster for her. Her new lawyer argued that she'd taken a lower stress job for mental health reasons and couldn't afford the current support obligation. My lawyer presented evidence that she'd quit her job to move in with her boyfriend, who was supporting her financially, and that she was posting on social media about expensive dinners, concerts, and weekend trips. The judge imputed her income at her previous salary and denied the modification. He also ordered her to pay the arrears within 90 days or face contempt charges. She didn't pay. Update 4. 6 months after the divorce, I filed for contempt. The amount in arrears was approaching $15,000. My lawyer sent notice. Her lawyer responded that she was doing her best and requested a payment plan. The contempt hearing was brief. The judge asked if she had the ability to pay. She said no. The judge asked about her living situation. She admitted she was living with her boyfriend rent-free. The judge asked about her expenses. She listed them out. The judge noted that she'd spent $800 on concert tickets the previous month according to her bank statements, which we'd subpoenaed. You have money for concerts, but not for your child? The judge asked. Those were gifts, she stammered. From whom? My boyfriend. So your boyfriend has disposable income to buy you concert tickets, but you can't pay child support? She didn't have an answer for that. The judge held her in contempt and ordered her to pay $500 per month toward the arrears in addition to her regular support, or face jail time. He also suspended her visitation rights until she was current on support. Not that it mattered. She hadn't requested visitation in 4 months anyway. That was 3 months ago. She's made exactly 2 of the additional payments. The arrears continue to grow. My lawyer says we can pursue wage garnishment, but since she's only working part-time now, there's not much to garnish. We could potentially go after her boyfriend's assets, but that's complicated and expensive. I don't really care about the money, honestly. My son and I are fine. I make good money. We have a nice apartment. He's thriving in school. The child support would be nice, sure, but I don't need it. What I wanted was accountability. I wanted documentation that she abandoned her son. I wanted a legal record that she chose her boyfriend over her child. I wanted proof that she was willing to give up everything. Her home, her car, her money, her son, for a fresh start. And I got it. It's all there in black and white. Court documents, custody agreements, support orders, contempt findings. My son won't understand it now. But someday, when he's older and asks why his mother wasn't around, I'll have answers. Not my bitter opinions. Not my side of the story. Actual legal documents showing her choices. Final update. It's been a year since the divorce. My ex-wife has paid approximately 30% of her support obligations. The arrears are over $20,000 now. She's filed for bankruptcy, which won't discharge the child support debt, but will protect her from other collections. She broke up with the boyfriend 6 months ago. Last I heard, she's living with a roommate and working part-time at a retail job. The house she fought so hard for. She couldn't keep up with the mortgage, and it went into foreclosure. The car needed expensive repairs she couldn't afford and was repossessed. She sent me an email last month. First contact in 4 months. She asked if we could revisit the custody arrangement because she's in a better place now and wants to be part of our son's life again. I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, her lawyer sent a formal request for custody modification. They're arguing that circumstances have changed and that she's rehabilitated and ready to resume parenting responsibilities. My lawyer is preparing our response. We have documentation of every missed support payment, every denied contempt hearing, every failed visitation. We have records showing she's requested to see our son exactly 3 times in 12 months, appeared for 2 of those visits, and cut 1 short. The hearing is next month. I'm not worried. My son is thriving. He's in 1st grade, has friends, plays soccer, takes swimming lessons. He stopped asking about his mother around month 8. He calls my parents grandma and grandpa, adores his aunt and uncle, has a stable routine. He's happy. Last week, he made me a card at school for the person who takes care of you. It had a drawing of the 2 of us holding hands. Inside it said, "My dad is the best because he makes me breakfast and helps me with homework and plays with me and loves me." I'm keeping that card with the court documents. Someday he'll want to know the whole story. When that day comes, I'll show him everything. The divorce decree, the custody agreement, the support orders, the contempt findings, the modification requests. And then I'll show him that card. And I'll tell him that while his mother made her choices and I made mine, the only choice that really mattered was choosing him. Every single time.